Welcome everybody to today's Pick a Card reading. Today's Pick a Card reading is all about raising your personal brand at your work, your career, whatever organisation or career you are in, or potentially that you're aspiring to be in if you're looking at hiring managers and networks that could bring you to the type of job that you want to be in. Whatever that is, we're looking at how you are coming across to others, how people see you, and what are the advantages in that you can leverage for your career, and what are some of the challenges or misconceptions that are worth being aware of so that you can deal with those and mitigate those. We will be looking first of all at some elements with Oracle cards around the type of career or type of skills that you might be using in your career, or anything else that tells us about where you are right now, and a little bit about the personality or culture of the organisation, business, whatever it is that you are in, because that will give us a context for then looking at what your managers or leaders think about you, what your colleagues think about you, and then also what's running under the surface that maybe neither you nor they are consciously aware of, but is impacting either positively or negatively your personal brand. And we'll finish up with some advice from Spirit about leveraging the best of that so that you can turbocharge your career. So, as always, the important thing is to choose the pile and the reading that most resonates, that most pulls to you to see and hear the reading. And to help with that, I have a black obsidian crystal on pile 1, a jade crystal on pile 2, and an amethyst crystal on pile 3. If you get called to more than one, that's fine. It might be that your environment and your strengths and challenges are an amalgam across a couple, so that's certainly reasonable to look at if you do think that's the case. But otherwise, hopefully one will really crystallise what is great about your personal brand and what you can do more of to have the appreciation and recognition from your colleagues and your leaders within your career. So, if you already know which deck is calling to you, then you'll find the timestamps in the description box below. If not, pause the video and contemplate till you have a sense about which one draws to you the most. And when you do know, I'll see you there. Welcome, pile 1. These were the Oracle cards under the crystal that you chose, and they are here to give a couple of things. One, some indications for some of you who've come to this reading about what sort of areas or industries you may be working in, but also to give me a sense about the work culture and some of the issues that you're facing within your career at the moment, so that we can then focus the tarot part of this after that. In terms of what these cards are saying about potential industries, and this doesn't have to fit you, it just may fit some that come here. There are 2 industries that are potentially coming out of these cards. One is in the justice system in some form, which could be anything from being a lawyer to being someone who looks after legal issues and law enforcement. It could be anything in that space. It could also be someone who is politically active, a social justice person, certainly someone who brings those sort of skills. You could be a paralegal, you could be working in something where justice and balance is important. And the other side that is potentially for some of you around careers, something in the health industry, which could be anything from conventional medicine through to alternative therapies. So there's that kind of thing. The other thing that comes up also with the planner is that you have very good planning skills and you can bring them to a situation. And I'll get to this in a minute because I think the environment that many of you are in need that at the moment. But it also may be that you are involved in planning in some way. So that could be being someone who's a project management expert or leader, or it could be someone who is in town planning. Or someone who works out schedules and logistics. So there's those sorts of different industries potentially with these cards. You don't have to be in that, but those cards have come up. So it's worth saying that if that resonates for anyone who's come here. But I do think a lot of what these cards, in combination these are telling me, is that you're in an environment where there are maybe some issues around fairness and justice more generally. and where possibly either you, in what you're thinking about how you position yourself, and we'll get a sense of that, whether that's the case with the tarot, or other people around you are not always realistic about their aims or their goals. There is a need for more planning in this environment. It seems to be very, not haphazard, but it's very much people sort of fly from the seat of their pants. It's very reactive, and there's a need, whether it's for you around your career to become more specific in your planning to reach towards a goal where possibly there's a promotion, a better contract for you, or whether it's around the organisation more generally, there is something there. And you are very good at working out or diagnosing the issue within the organisation. You could be someone who works around work culture with these cards as well within the organisation that you're in. You're certainly able to look at the data and see how that connects to goals and whether or not key performance indicators are being met, those sorts of things. You've got a really good sense of that, but you're either being then unrealistic about what you can do with it because of things that are going on culturally, or you're seeing that some of the leaders in the environment are not realistic. And that's affecting how you're viewed. And there's a hint in this about using data and planning and a structure and balance to raise your profile and to get more of what you want, rather than aligning to what appears to be, as I say, a more, it's not haphazard, but it's a more sort of reactive, very organic sort of feeling to this. Many of you may well be in a small business or a family-run business potentially. You may be a member of the family involved in it, and that may make it more complex about dealing with these issues. Or it could be that the culture is good on a individual to individual situation. You actually feel part of a family with it, but you're realising that something needs to be done. And that gives you an opportunity, pile one, but it also gives you a challenge. These cards, which are from a Circus Oracle, I've chosen because I think it's a very good metaphor for the work culture that you would be dealing with. And this is telling me that you are meant to bring balance to this situation to some degree. You're meant to take on a leadership role, and sometimes it will mean that you need to stand separate to others. So it will be interesting to see what comes up when we see the tarot around your colleagues, because these two cards are almost opposites in a way. This is about the connection to others. This is about being able to stand in your own truth. There does look like there is some sort of a battle or issue going on within the organisation, whether it's overt and clear or whether it's more unconscious. And again, we'll look into that with the other cards. You are aware of it. And the mind card in the middle is saying to observe, to watch, but not necessarily to speak until you're ready to speak. This is really about authenticity, but it's also about doing the observation and doing the planning before you actually come forward. At the moment, if you did something, it probably wouldn't be responded to positively, because there's a lot of work culture issues around this, and there's a lot of emotion around it. So there are some very good things about the workplace that you're in around work culture, but there's almost a kind of a groupthink that's occurred because of that. And you are positioned potentially to raise your personal brand and to raise your reputation and career by seeing that, but it's how you do it. And it seems to be about really having the data and the planning to bring about the balance that is needed. For some of you, I'm getting there may be contracts around either for a promotion or for new business. If this is your own business and it's connected to others that you're working with, there may be a need to be more clear about your requirements and what is needed. If you're collaborating with others who are friends or family, as I say, there may need to be more clarity, but there's a sense that there are opportunities coming. And so it's important to get more realistic about what's going on. So let's have a look at with one tarot pack. I'm using 3 different tarot packs for this, but with the first one, I want to have a sense about what your managers or leaders are thinking. And if you happen to be a leader, then it's probably more your clients and stakeholders. So if you are a leader here, if this is around running your own business, it's probably more those that make the decisions about whether or not they take your services, they sign the contracts and so forth. But it's looking at the people who have some decision-making ability around you, how they're viewing you at the moment, pile one. So firstly, it's interesting that we got the audit card coming out. This particular deck is called the Business Class Tarot, and it's a revisioning of tarot around corporations or businesses and the sorts of, and so the major arcana picks up different sorts of functions that are important to running a business at whatever level it's at. And so the fact that we've got audit with health and planner, and that there's something unrealistic here, and maybe with justice, some of you may be looking at regulatory requirements around audit. You may in fact be an auditor. Some of you who come here may be in audit. Otherwise, it's using those sorts of skills. And your leaders and managers look to you as someone who can do that. They do actually trust that you can bring up to the surface where things are not working the way that they are meant to work. You may be someone who also does a sort of performance management type of role, or performance metrics with this sort of energy, but they see you as someone who can find what isn't working, and there is definitely some stuff that isn't working. So if you're in an organisation, as I say, you are someone that is recognised for that, so that's good. That means that the unrealistic side of things is less likely to be you. It's much more likely to be things that are going on in the organisation, and they definitely see that. They know on some level that there are product lines, there are activities that are not returning the investment that they've put into it. There's a kind of it feels as though there's been a stop put on the energy and growth of whatever this is, because that's like the Eight of Wands but reversed. And it may have been things, this is a timeless reading, but if you're coming to it when I'm doing it, which is in July in 2021, it could be things that have come off the pandemic. Could be that sort of issue that's affecting business, or it could be something else. There is certainly some difficult decisions that need to be made about investment, and they won't be made yet until you've had some input. You have a real chance to do something in that space. If you're running your own business, you've recognised that. You've recognised that something is not working in the way maybe that the product or the service is delivered. It may be the shift that we are all dealing with at the moment around the sort of, in some ways, more connected world electronically, but less connected because of social isolation, lockdowns, all those sort of things that we seem to have to deal with in various countries at the moment. So there is something there, you know that, and they recognise that you can see that, and they think that you can make the decisions to take things forward. What they also see in you is someone who understands the work culture and values the work culture, and is someone who very much aligns with it. Now, this could be an interesting tension for you, Pile 1, because I think it's connecting to this family card, but you're over here, you need to be able to be separate, and the auditor needs to be separate. So the leaders and the managers around you do want to hear from you about what you think is working and your plans and so forth, but they don't necessarily want to hear something that's going to disturb a good work culture. So that may be where this unrealistic thing is coming. It may be that there are particular product lines, service delivery lines, particular people within an organisation if it's smaller that are not delivering, and that needs to be addressed in some way. This isn't necessarily saying that you need to do it, but I think it is saying that you need to be aware of that impact on the brand of the organisation and the brand of the work culture. If you do that, your brand really raises. So I think that for most of you, there is a really strong sense that you know what you're talking about, that you come from a very clear way of thinking, and that you should be listened to, but you will get pushback if you talk about things that could be too harsh or too quick on the work culture. So be aware of that. There is probably a way through it, and the more data that you have, the better. But this is about collaboration, this is about moving forward together, and this is about work culture. So, and if you're running your own business, and so this is more your stakeholders, they don't want to see a significant shift in what you do in terms of your values. Values are very important. So I feel as though it's almost a push between the head and the heart operating in this, the head being the audit and the heart being the brand. So finding that balance with the data and with the evidence and with the planning it's a very good opportunity for you, but there will be a pushback if you don't look at both of them. So given this, I think that for many of you there is something that could impact colleagues around you, the structure of an organisation, the future of its brand and its service delivery and its almost reason for being. So I'm going to use another tarot deck to have a look at what your colleagues, how the colleagues view you, because managers, leaders, stakeholders see you as a leader and someone who can take this through what might have been a bit of a rocky time and a bit of a frustrating time and balance it well. And you are able to keep your silence when necessary, and you're clever, pile one, and I think they see that. But what do your colleagues think at this point in time? Okay, so this is definitely picking up the feeling that there is some issue. There is some core issue going on in your workplace, in the career. I think it's affecting others more than you. You are, as I say, somehow in a position where either because of your role or because of your innate capacity, you are rising a bit above it and being able to look at what needs to be done. But there is drama around this. Your colleagues know that something has not really returned on the investment, that there is change that's necessary. Something is not forming with the Page of Pentacles reversed. Some option or process or product or whatever it might be is not really landing for some reason. And they know that. And I think there is a lot of worry and a lot of drama around. I think for many of you, you may be in a situation where there is restructuring of an organisation, potentially downsizing in an organisation, certainly a lot of change that is necessary. And somehow in all this, the culture wants to keep on. It wants to be able to last. But there is a sense around your colleagues around, is management going in the right direction? Is this going to work out? Are they going to have a job at the end of it? Should they keep on keeping on? And if this is in a smaller business or a family business, as I say, there's just a lot of drama around it about who's pulling their weight and who isn't. Your colleagues don't see you as the enemy in this, even if you are somebody who needs to bring some of the data to it. They do see you as someone that they could collaborate with and create something that would work. So I think that that's good. There's not a sense here. I don't think for most of you, you are the decision maker around this. If you are running your own business and you are the decision maker, then they recognize that you are connected to what the external stakeholder and market needs. And they think that you have within your capacity a way to balance and bring this back into alignment. So that's good. But I feel like you've got a lot of really heavy energy around you. You've got a lot of anxiety from people, and that is affecting the capacity even to bring this about. That's why it's so important for you to be able to come up with the plan, bring something forward, bring justice and balance to this scenario. And I think they do look to you for that. But there's a sense of connectedness to you. That's a good energy. I feel like the other energy is not so much directed to you, though it is possible that some of them may look to you to guide them and help them keep on keeping on. Like I think that they may look to you as a bit of a role model for that, but they're very aware that something isn't working. And possibly, I think they see you as one of them in that exercise and the leader to bring them out of that, not as a manager who's making the decision for the most part. But there's not, as I say, there's not a sense of them not liking you or thinking that you are the issue. They do see you as someone who could help. They do see you as someone who is very pragmatic and very grounded. And there's just a lot of drama around the situation. So the issue for you, I think, is trying to make that dispassionate decision that's necessary while also keeping that work culture. It was there right at the beginning with the balance and the family. There is a sense of you are connected. There is a sense of family between you and your colleagues as well. So that's good to work with, but it's also challenging within the situation that you're in. So let's use a third set of tarot cards to have a look at what's unconscious to you and to them. Like what is really not being seen, but is either really positive and can help, or is something else that needs to be brought to the surface so that you can keep that balance right and take on, I think, a leadership role over time in terms of your own personal brand. Okay, so for the start, I think this is saying there is a lot operating under the surface, and my sense is it will be at the more senior levels of the organisation if you're in a large organisation, or it's around the market and other things that are going on if it's smaller. There is a lot that has not come to the surface. Spirit wants you to know that there is a sense of hesitancy in this organisation. The courage that the Seven of Wands, if it was the right way up, could bring forward is not there at the moment. It's like making a decision is very, very hard for those that need to make a decision. They will resist making a decision. That's, I think, why it's so important around the audit and the brand. Until they get that balance, they're going to look to you, I think, for that, or to people like you if you're one of a group of people all who are looking at this and bringing up suggestions. And there's a reluctance to make a decision and to complete a cycle. I do think many of you are in an organisation that is going to restructure or change. It has to do it. It has to do it to move forward. It doesn't necessarily mean that that has people leaving, if that's the reluctance, because there's a sense of family around this, but it does need to change, and it's being kept under the surface because there is such an emphasis on the work culture and on what it is to work in this place. And so that's an issue. And we've got the Eight of Swords here. That suggests, it's the Eight of Swords reversed. So it does suggest that again, through the audit and through the planning, there is a way to release that energy and bring it to the surface. And it does need to be brought to the surface. I think if you talk to your managers or leaders, they wouldn't even perceive that they were not making a decision. But they are not making a decision at the moment. They're not making the tough decisions that are necessary, which is probably coming from a good place, to be frank, but nevertheless, it just makes the potential issue worse if they don't look at it. So thinking again about how to release the anxiety that this causes so that they can hear it, because there's a lot of unconscious stuff going on. Information is going to come out with the High Priestess reversed. Things that have been hidden or unconscious, it is going to come out. And I think that you're going to be really part of that in some way. That's the general feeling of this whole reading. And once it does, the Chariot is going to release everything. It's going to move forward a lot quicker and a lot more smoothly at that point. But again, the Chariot classically is about balancing head and heart, or different sorts of emotions again. So it keeps coming back to that. So I think what Spirit's really trying to say to you is you are in a changeable environment that isn't really being honest completely about what's going on. Not necessarily from a bad sort of motive, but is not really being honest about it. And there's something about your capacity to see the information and to present it in a way that has balance, that will not only help the situation because it needs it, but will also raise your personal brand. So it's sort of one of those things where in a difficult situation there's opportunity. So I think that's the overarching sense of this, pile one. So I want to finish with a couple of oracles to give you just a little bit more guidance about dealing with this, because you have an interesting balancing act to do in your career to take your brand forward and to really maximize that sense that your managers see you as leadership potential, I think, and your team, your colleagues see you as someone who can help in times of adversity and ground the energy. So let's see what Spirit wants to tell you in terms of sort of an energetic approach you should take. Okay, so Spirit's definitely saying that you do have the internal wisdom to know how to do this. This is why this is going to raise your personal brand. You're there for a reason, I think, in whatever size of organisation it is, whatever is triggering this need for rethinking, revisioning, you have the wisdom to do it. And so relying on that wisdom, and wisdom, I always say wisdom is like empathy and intellect combined. It's both. And so that's the intellect and that's the empathy. So it's saying look to that and bring it into balance. See how balanced this character looks with the peace, that there is peace that can be found when those two things are brought into balance. It's not a throw the baby out with the bathwater type scenario going on here. It is about maintaining and keeping what's positive in the environment, but revisioning it and moving it forward and being peaceful in doing that. I don't think that you're going to set off some form of great conflict. I think in actual fact there's a lot of subconscious conflict going on at the moment, and you're going to be a peacemaker for that. Regardless of whatever level you're at and whatever your role is, there's something about your innate intellectual understanding of things, that audit sense and that planning sense that is really key to your organisation at the moment. So I want to close off with a couple of last cards from a deck called Secret Women's Business. So it's not just for women, but it is about business issues and raising your brand within the business. So really maximising what appears to be a very high opinion that people have of you, but making sure that given that high opinion has brought a lot of responsibility on you in some way, that you really smoothly sail through that and bring about that sort of energy and release of the Chariot. Okay. So this is interesting. That is very interesting actually, because this suggests that as I say, even if there's revision, you know how I said I don't necessarily feel that people will be leaving. They may be worried that they're going to, but I think it's more like they're doing something different. It may be that there's also part of doing this revisiting needs some external help. And some of that might be mentors for people to transition into what's happening. It may also be saying that it's a good time for you to seek a mentor. I think it could be. It could be that within the leaders or the managers in your organisation that there's someone who could become a mentor, and not only are they then a mentor to you, but it's one of the ways that you can start to feed through what you're seeing going on and the ideas that you have, particularly if you're not in a classic audit or planning or key performance management type of role. If you're in a different sort of role, but you can see things, having that mentor, it tells the organisation that you have leadership aspirations. It also gives you an open door to talk about things to start to influence on that level. But I do think maybe the organisation needs to look at different skills than it has, probably more for the short term to help go through the change. But in some cases, it may be also bringing in and growth. I mean, when we get to the Chariot, there may in fact be growth. So pile one, you're seen as a natural diagnoser of issues, an extremely good planner, someone who's very realistic and balanced. You're also relied upon to understand the impact and the importance of work culture. And your colleagues see that. They see you as a friend. They see you as reliable. They don't see you as someone who would sacrifice them to get on. And your managers see you as someone who has that sense of balance as well. The way forward for you is to move more and more into that power and more into that career trajectory, which really is a leadership trajectory for you, no matter where you are at the moment. But there are some real challenges where you are. Whatever they are, there are some real challenges. And you're the person to do it, I think, and I think everybody sees you're the person to do it. Again, whatever level you're at. But think about making those connections further up the line, because that is also a way to influence. So I hope that resonates for your situation, and I hope that it's helpful in giving you a sense about how your managers, leaders and colleagues see you and some of the key issues for you in your career and personal brand. If so, please like the video, and if you haven't already done so, subscribe. And if you have any comments on this, I'd be really fascinated to hear about it in the comments. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 2. These cards were under the crystal that you chose to come to the reading, and I'm using them to get a sense potentially of sort of industries or types of work that you might be in. It doesn't have to be those, but sometimes these cards will give a sense of that. And these cards here, which are from a Circus Oracle, to get a sense of the work environment that you're in, whether it be small, medium or large scale, whether it be a business of your own, whether it be a large employer that you're working for and so forth. What I'm getting from this, firstly, is that many of you have been having a difficult time around work. And so I think part of the reason that you have maybe come to this reading is to try and understand what's going on. My sense is that it's probably something more general to the organisation you're in or the industry that you are in. These setbacks have made you wonder about it, about whether you're taking the right approach, whether you're being seen in the right way, and we will look into that a little bit more with the tarot cards to get a sense about where you could change your approach if that is the case. But it is definitely saying don't lose hope, and then everything from there actually looks like it's getting better. For some of you, even if you have felt in your workplace that you aren't appreciated or aren't seen, you may in fact find that that's not true. You could get a cash bonus from work for something that you've done really well. Somebody's going to see you or maybe be a benefactor in some way. And this is also saying that you have a lot of natural gifts and talents that are really important to your personal brand, and to not lose hope around those. You will find where to put that energy. Some of you may be in industries that are around more trades and labour. You don't have to be, but some of you might be. If so, it's certainly saying that luck is coming into the industry and luck is coming around you if you felt that there were setbacks or delays about moving forward. But it's also a sign that a new job or a new opportunity is coming to you, like literally about work, about moving forward. Some of you may have lost a job in the last 6 to 12 months, and you might have been looking for something and more stability, and this is definitely saying that something like that could be coming. For some of you, it could literally be in construction, maintenance, anything along those lines, but it doesn't have to be. One of the things that you will be recognized for, and I think we'll see as we look at the cards going forward, is that you are very reliable, you are very trustworthy. That's probably one of the reasons why setbacks have been so dismaying to you, because you really give something your all and people see that. But this is saying that luck is coming because of that. There is a change in your luck coming through. You're going to get a lucky break of some sort, financially or in your career, and you will find that what you put your energy to and your attention to now is going to be prosperous. So that's fantastic. I do think for some of you, this work culture is quite interesting. So if you are in a job, and I do think that some of you have left one, but I think for those who are in a job or in an organisation, there is a difficult balancing act literally going on here about connecting with your colleagues, your loyalty, because you're very loyal, and making whatever change you needed to make. It may be that for some of you, if you're in a workplace, the opportunity and the luck is going to be to move somewhere else, because this is you trying to balance what you need to do in your career with what is being demanded of you. And this ease of movement suggests that there is an opportunity coming for you, but this card also is a sort of demanding card in terms of cultural energy. There's an energy around it where others are saying to you, I need you here, don't leave, don't abandon, you're important to what we're trying to do here. So I do think for some of you, you might have an opportunity and it might be a little bit hard to leave where you are because you are so loyal, but we'll have a look and see what the tarot says more generally about that. Certainly trusting in yourself is important. You bring a lot of trust. You are very trusted. That's a very clear thing by your managers, leaders, and your colleagues. That's why there's this subtle pressure on you as well. And so if the setback has been more in your industry or your business and you have an opportunity somewhere else, it may be that part of the energy we're going to see here is how people respond when you look to move on or to move your career forward. So let's look at the tarot. I'm going to use 3 different tarot decks for this. The first one I'm using is the Business Class Tarot. It's a tarot that's a revisiting of tarot around a modern corporation. So it doesn't necessarily mean you have to be in a modern corporation, but it just shows the different sorts of activities and things that particularly leaders and managers need to think about in running a business. So I want to use it to look at how the managers and leaders in your organisation see you now, or if you are looking for work, what it is in you that's going to bring this gift, this luck, this turn of events for you. So firstly, this is really making me think that you've either left somewhere or you're going to leave somewhere. That's the feeling. I mean, it could be just leaving a team and moving to a different team and a different manager, but I think with many of you, part of what is going to be seen and bring about this luck is your preparedness to move on from something that maybe had a lot of your heart, something that the people that you really cared about, but to move on when the time is right. There is definitely a decision coming for you. Your leaders or managers are going to give you an option, and part of what you'll need to think about is around the brand, around the heart of what you're doing. With the brand director coming here, you may be moving into some sort of a role that is important to the brand and the culture of the workplace that you're in. It might be your capacity to move away from patterns that don't work to move towards something that is more healthy for an organisation that matters. But I do think with this, also with brand 6, which is like the 6 of Cups reversed, what has been working for either you or for the organisation you're in is going to shift. It has to shift. There is a necessity for that. For some of you, you're going to be a key person around that in some way. And I think it's because you're seen as very loyal, you're seen as very connected to the people that you're with. That really matters to you. You're a natural leader of people, but I do think, and it will be interesting to see what we see around colleagues, I do think that for some of you, if you're not leaving a workplace, then you're moving up the ladder, you're moving to a position of more responsibility, and there are going to be some reactions from the people around you who liked where you were, and trusting in yourself and trusting in your response to that is going to be really, really important. There's something also going on that either you're going to help with, or which is picking up the setbacks, where I think the business that you're in or the career that you've been in has not in recent times been delivering the kind of stability and money that you would want. And it may be, even with this luck, that the first step up or the first move out of that will not necessarily give you that sense of security that you're ultimately looking for, but it's moving you in the right direction. That's why there's some emotional separation you need to do in some way from what your vision of what you wanted to do in the first place to where you're potentially going. But I do think for many of you with that, you're going to leave somewhere. You're going to leave what you were doing. So this is, as much as anything, picking up the energy from maybe a new hiring manager who can see your capacity to deal with workplace issues in whatever form it is. It may be for some of you too that you're actually in a contract role. You're in sort of the gig economy on some level. And so you're not sure about whether you're going to get that stability. And I'm not sure that you're going to know about that in, say, the next 6 to 12 months. It looks as though there's great potential to move up the ladder or to get that stability, but at the moment it's not clear. There's something going on in the business or the work environment that's not stable. But as I say, I think for most of you, you're likely to be moving on or moving up, and that is going to have an impact on how your colleagues see you, particularly as it looks like many of them very much rely on you on an emotional level. So let's see what Spirit has to tell us about how your colleagues see you at the moment, and particularly if you are moving into this different role, what impact that might have. Okay. Paul, too, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. I think you're dealing with a really tricky situation around your colleagues. I think that they can see that you're ready to move on or move up. And in many cases, it may very well be moving up because there's the wheel of fortune coming in, the luck, the gift, the moving forward. There are many of them that really don't want you to do it. They don't want you to move on. They want you to stay with them. There's some of them, some of you are going to be, I'm getting, in an environment where there's a lot of discontent and people are almost happy in their discontent. They're kind of united in their discontent, but you've got an opportunity to move forward and to do something more positive, and they don't want anybody to break ranks. There might in fact be some pressure around unions potentially, and I'm quite pro-union, so I don't mean that in a negative way, but there may be that sort of sense of unity against the managers or the leaders or the organisation that's operating, and you've got an opportunity now to move forward, or you will in the next 3 to 6 months. I think you're going to see that opportunity and have that reversal of fortune, or you may literally leave and they don't want you to leave. They will use quite a lot of emotional blackmail potentially on you. They know that you care. They know that you are you're a very good manager. If you're a manager yourself, you're a very good collaborator and team person. If that's the case, it looks like they're going to try to stop you making the decision. So that's tricky. I think I think for some of them it might be jealousy, but I think for most it isn't that. I think that people really feel they need you. You are like the still point in all of this difficulty. You're the emotional center to them. You're the person who makes them believe that things can still be good. You're really powerful on that level, Paul, too. But it's potentially going to tie you up. People want to keep you in the same situation as them. It's almost like if you manage to step out of it, they would then have to think about their own responsibility. Whereas if you don't, then there's this collective sense of injustice, or it's just bad luck, it's just the way the world is. So there's a tension for you around that. So that's pretty, I mean, it's great that you're going to move on, I think, but I think it's going to be hard for you on some levels because you really do care about people. And it's not that these people don't care about you, like they really look up to you and they really do need you. But on another level, you do have to look after yourself because this is not a really healthy energy, I have to say. So let's have a look at what's unconscious with another deck. I think that's going to be really important because a lot of this is probably quite unconscious, but it's important to bring this up to the surface. What's unconscious either for you or for them around your personal brand and your career at the moment and how you're seen? Turn this up for a second. It's hard to read. Yes, I thought that was. Okay, so firstly, whether you're conscious of it or not, you are going to make the decision that you need to make. You are going to do that. And if that means that you have to move on, you will do it. If that means you have to move up, you will do it. That there is a driving force under this, and you will be able to understand those energies. They're not going to hold you back, but you will feel that you have to walk on eggshells with people around it. You're going to feel like you have to navigate it in a way. I like the fact that we have the brand director underneath there, because that suggests to me you have that really natural ability to work with a work culture or work with the outcomes of things. So you know how to do that, but you understand you're in a very contested environment for some reason. You're also going to break free of those constraints because the devil is reversed. So we've got the devil for how people are viewing you or what they want from you in terms of colleagues, but unconsciously the devil is reversed. This is inevitable. You are moving to another level, and if that does upset certain people, so be it. You have to move on. You've done the work. Like the Eight of Pentacles is here. You've done the work. You've got the skills. You know, remember up here it talked about that you have you talked about particular skills that you have and that they're being recognized. That's coming. This is a pattern that is inevitable in your life. It's bringing you more to who you should be, and maybe even some of those setbacks to start with were to remind you of that, to recalibrate your sense about what is important. And it is important to have a caring, good environment that you work in and to care about your colleagues and all of that sort of thing. But you can't be drawn back into that. And if that's become a culture where there's misery loves company, you need to move away from that. And I think what this is saying is that you are becoming increasingly conscious of that. You know that you need to move on. You need to do whatever that is within your circumstance, and you are going to do it quite quickly, and you may surprise people when you do it, but that's fine. You'll do it with warmth. You're not doing it, it's the Knight of Wands, it's not the Knight of Swords, so you're going to do it with warmth and caring, but you will still do it. And I like the fact that we've got the Knight of Wands the right way up relating to the Eight of Wands reversed there. There's just this sense that your unconscious is going to push you towards releasing this energy for you and making that decision. So I think that's very positive. Let's have a look at some energetic information and advice for you about how to really bring that to the surface and how to balance it, because you're a very kind person. There's a reason people rely on you and need you, but you do need to look after yourself. So what advice energetically would Spirit give my pile 2 to really realise this opportunity to move on and up in whatever form it is? Okay, so this is very consistent. It's saying there's going to be resistance around. I think that's coming from your colleagues, not from your managers and leaders. You do need to resist that pile 2. You're so caring, and you really don't want to hurt people and you really don't want to let people down, but just sometimes you just have to focus on what you do. If there are people in your colleague group who, once you move on, you think, if they were just in a different, if you go to another organisation, if they were just in a different environment, maybe they'll thrive. You might be able to encourage them to come and join you in the new environment potentially. But at the moment, you just need to understand that power of resistance is going to be operating against you, and to go into your own power, because it's considerable. That's why people are drawn to you. That's why people want you to stay. But that power needs to be unleashed. You are meant to do something with this. So I want to finish off with a deck that's called Secret Women's Business. You don't have to be a woman for this to apply to you. It's really about your personal brand, building your business, building your career. So just for a last couple of pieces of pragmatic, prosaic advice about how to deal with this pressure you are going to be under, but this opportunity that's also coming with it. Okay. So Spirit is saying here, there's a double message, I think, to this ego trap. One of them is that don't let people manipulate your ego about how important you are to them and how you need to stay with them and so forth. You are important to them, and it's true, but it's part of the way that they might try to manipulate you. So be aware of that. The second thing is that some of this energy is coming from an egoic place. And so not falling into that trap and falling into that sense of, well, if I can't move forward, I can at least feel justified in my rage at the machine, so to speak. That's a different form. It's a sort of inverted form of ego. So don't get caught in that. So the other thing that it says is, are you too busy to create your dream business? So some of that might be is don't get caught in the white noise of this, because there will be a lot. And then it says, yes, go ahead. This is the best course of action for you. Do not stop. Once this opportunity comes through, whatever it is, go with it. It is meant to happen. You are meant to do it, and don't listen to the pressure, because you are going to get pressure, I think, from those who want you to stay with them. And it's your time to rise, pile 2, and own that. And later on, as I say, you may be able to elevate others from this group to you, but staying there is not really an option. You really do need to move on and move up. So I hope that resonates for you, and I hope it's helpful. It's an interesting time for you. If that did and you enjoyed the reading, please like the video and subscribe. And if you have any comments on this, I'd be really fascinated to hear about them in the comments below. People like you are very, very important to organisations, businesses and so forth, but you also have a lot of pressure put on you. So I really do hope that you take from this how important it is to put yourself first sometimes rather than others. Beyond that, I hope that I see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 3, to your reading. These cards were under the crystal that you chose, and this is meant to give me a sense about either the type of industry, type of job, or potentially some of the aspects that you're dealing with in your career at the moment. And these cards are meant to give me a sense of the work culture or emotional pressures that might be around your work, your workplace and your career, and how others see you. So the first thing I would say about this, some of you, we've got mechanic there, may be in careers where being a mechanic is part of it, automotive industry, aerospace, repair technician, something in that space. You don't have to be, but some of you might be. If that's the case, and this is a bit of a confirmation that you're in the right reading, but you don't have to be that, because it could be just saying that you have the capacity to fix things that aren't working, and there is a sense around that. This is saying that something is coming from your past. Maybe it could be a connection from another workplace. It could be a connection from study. It could be friends. It could be anything. There's something that's coming from your past that is going to give you a new opportunity. It may be a new job opportunity. It may be a chance to reposition your career. It could be looking at other ways to make money outside of the job that you're doing at the moment that connects to something you've done in the past. And there's growth associated with it. So there's a sense of more money coming in. It could be a promotion. It could be someone poaching you from from the organisation that you're in at the moment, someone that you've worked with in the past, but there's certainly something coming in, and that's good because it looks like you're not particularly happy with what you're doing. This card can come up where you're happy about the organisation that you're in or the people that you're working with, but not necessarily fulfilled in what the role is that you're doing, and it's something that you need to fix because you're feeling stuck. Now, my sense with these cards, what is creating this, and we will see a little bit more when we look at the tarot around managers and colleagues, you look like you are literally bending over backwards for other people. There are people who are making great demands on you. They want you to be a certain way. They want you to do certain things. And I feel like some of this may be your colleagues rather than your managers, people who just want a lot from you. If you're in a team, you're probably someone who puts in more energy than a lot of the other people in the team, and it's making things feel really repetitive and stuck and like you're always there for other people but not necessarily for yourself. And these cards are saying, it's almost like this is the tension that's operating, because these cards are saying be yourself, be true to yourself, whereas this one is suggesting that it is a environment where some people, maybe the whole culture, is about the demands that they make, and some of how you're recognised is to meet those demands rather than them thinking about what you would need. So this is why I think for some of you there may be an opportunity coming to go somewhere else, or to shift where you are in the organisation, at least to be somewhere where it's not just about you every day doing what other people want you to do rather than being true to yourself. It's a culture that is very demanding. It's probably a culture that has some very specific key performance indicators. It's high volume potentially. It's just on and on and on. There's a sense of relentlessness about it. And if you try to shift out of that, there can be pushback. And so it'll be interesting to see whether that's pushback primarily from your managers or whether it's from your colleagues or both. So let's have a look at what your managers and leaders in your organisation are feeling about you at the moment. And if you're running your own business and it's just relentless, this may be your stakeholders and clients and what they're wanting and their demands as opposed to what you're trying to grow and build in your business. So let's have a look at the decision makers around you, how they view you. Okay, so this is encouraging for you, I think, because there is a sense here. So I think if there's people who want you to keep doing the same thing, it's probably more your colleagues. So we'll get that in the next tarot deck. This particular tarot deck is called the Business Class Tarot, and it is a design of the tarot that is about big corporations. It doesn't mean you have to be in a big corporation. It's just that it's aligning it to the sorts of functions, activities and roles that exist within a business. And so in a big business, there'll be separate roles. For instance, like audit might sit in its own team, whereas in a smaller organisation, it may be a function that is one of a number around a corporate and performance oversight, for instance. So I use it because I think it really has that higher level, higher order, what's the business about, what the leaders and managers or clients potentially want. And the good news for you is that you are seen as someone who is a very strong asset for the brand of the organisation and someone who does very much connect in with other people and meet their needs. I guess there could be potentially an issue there about whether sometimes you sublimate your own needs for others. You put the work culture first. So that's something to be aware of. But they see you as a bit of a rainmaker, a bit of a money maker, the sort of person who does have a strategic sense of where the business is going and you understand the detail. And I do think in the organisation there is something that has been a bit stuck with the product director reversed. So that's sort of like Wands energy reversed. So I think that they see that energy is around, but I think they see you as understanding what it is. I don't think they see you as the person who's stuck. I think they see you as understanding what's stuck. Again, at whatever level you're at, it may just be in conversations you have with a manager because you're not in a high enough position at the moment. Or it may be that you literally are in some sort of a role that's about the strategy of the organisation. It's interesting if you are because you're feeling unfulfilled. And often people, when they get to that level and into these sort of roles, can feel much more fulfilled because they're doing something on a broader level. So it may be indicating that they can see that potential in you, and there's a chance that potentially you'll have at least one benefactor, one mentor, one person who's going to start to lift you out of it. And part of it's because they've seen the really good impact you have on the environment that you're in and on the brand and so forth. And you really do get what the business is doing. If it's clients around you and it's your own business, then your capacity to really look at the data and strategically plan is bringing in growth. So that's confirming that again. But there might be something that you need to shift or fix in what you're offering in terms of service delivery. So your clients might think, I really love this organisation, I love this business, I love the feel of it, I think that what they create is really great and new, but there's certain things that aren't working for the clients potentially. But if you're in an organisation, I think probably most of you are, I think that your leaders and managers see you as someone ready to step up. So that's very positive. But it does, there's either there's going to be something around your colleagues, or it's going to be a lot more demanding. And so you have to make that decision about the growth and fulfillment. And that might be why the past is coming up. It might be saying that there are also going to be options or opportunities that are more around maybe a career path that you really loved. One of the things this could be indicating for some of my Power 3 are people who really love to be the technical specialists, so picking up that mechanic side of things, the people who really want to excel with that. They love that. They love teaching their teams how to do things. They love being all about excellence and outcomes. So one of the things you may need to think about, Summer Power 3, is if you move up the ladder and you go, say, into a more broad leadership role that's more about working on the business rather than in the business, are you going to be fulfilled with that? So I think for some of you there may be a question there, because not everybody wants to be a manager. Some people really want to be the technical specialist and guru. So it's worth thinking about that if that resonates for you. So let's have a look at what your colleagues and teammates think about you and feel about you at the moment, Pile 3. Okay, so this is a bit of a mixed bag. I think that most of your colleagues really see that you are ready for this next step, and some of them really think you need to make the decision, and they're a little bit frustrated with you because it looks like you're a bit reluctant and wondering about whether this is the right move for you, whether it's going to fulfill you. So I think some of them feel you need to make that decision and you need to sort of take the next step. But there's at least one, and I think this is picking up this bending over backwards and don't turn your back on me. There's at least one colleague around you, possibly more, but at least one, who's really critical by nature. And this person they don't necessarily celebrate the success of others. They want what they want, and that's what they want. And so if your change meant that they were going to get less attention than they wanted, or less of something that you've been providing to them, then they're not going to be happy about that, and they may try to influence you. Because if your colleagues in general are saying that it's a bit tough for you to make this decision, then someone may try to influence you. Most of your colleagues are your friends, however. Most of them want to celebrate with you. So it's just, there's an energy here. There's a person or a group of people that are much more demanding and much less forgiving if somebody moves to a situation and ceases to provide what they've been providing. It's also possible that there's a colleague that is maybe just slightly above you. They're not a leader or a manager, but they're maybe slightly above you within the hierarchy of the team that you're in, who really is very critical about outcomes and is pushing a lot of this demand. So they may in fact be the person who pushes you towards making the decision and moving up just to get away from them, to be honest. But if there is someone around you that is telling you the 10 reasons why this isn't going to be the right thing for you, then kind of turn the volume down on them. Listen to the people who are saying, we want to celebrate with you. It doesn't necessarily mean, as I say, you may decide, I'm not going to take this on because it's not the role that I want, but make that your decision if that's the case. Don't let it be someone who just likes you where you are because it suits them and it's helping their key performance indicators or it's helping their personal brand. Because I get the sense with this person is very ambitious. This person really wants to move on and may be quite jealous if they think that they think they're the clever one. They think they're the strategic one. They think they understand the data. And they're feeling trapped. So there's a certain sense of resentment for some of my pile 3 coming from a colleague or a small group of colleagues, a small sub-team within a team. But don't let that tie you up because that's what they'd like to do. They want the celebration to be theirs. So it's definitely got a sense of there's an opportunity that's looking at your intellect, but also your heart. This person's just intellect. That's the issue. Why you're being recognised is that you have the heart and the loyalty of others. Whereas this person would not have that. They would be very, very prescriptive and very outcomes focused and very controlling, but there's just not the heart around it. So there's someone, for most of my pile 3, there's someone that you need to be careful whether you listen to them and not let them hold you back because it's all about them, basically. So let's have a look at the unconscious energy. I think you're very conscious of this person. I think you'll know exactly who I'm talking about. But let's look at the unconscious energy because I do think for you there is a decision here about whether this is the direction you want to go in. And I think there'd be growth for you in any case, but part of what you maybe need to fix up here is really understanding what the next career step looks like for you and then calibrating your personal brand to support that. So let's see what's unconscious. Okay, so this is definitely picking up this sense I have that you know there's an opportunity coming, but you're really unsure about making the change. And I think that this is partly sort of the past. Maybe there's been a career step you've taken in the last couple of years and it was another step up the ladder, for instance, and in doing that you were doing less of what you really liked and more of stuff that you didn't like potentially. There is certainly a sense of, the energy is coming to move forward. We've got the 8 of Wands there. You know that there's a sort of freedom and a liberation, and that's also shown by the 8 of Swords reversed. You can come out of a sense of being trapped. So this 8 of Swords energy that this person is trying to look towards you for, this opportunity is coming, whether it's, as I say, from the past or whether it's sort of something that is just about growth and a step up. It's coming for you. But on an unconscious level, you haven't really realized how much this has to do with freedom, the freedom to make a choice. And that's because you feel like you have to walk on eggshells with people. You feel like you have to be really careful and you're not sure if you would have the energy to take it forward. For some of you, you're probably quite exhausted, to be honest. I do think there's sort of like driving KPI energy. It's really hard to make a decision around the next step when you're just feeling relentlessly relied upon and pushed within something. And so the Tower's reversed here. And so you're kind of resisting a change. However, the Tower, when it's reversed, often means the change is not as significant as you were worried about. So I think what it is saying is unconsciously you know that there's a way of calibrating this change and making it more like a kind of reconstruction of your career and your brand and moving forward rather than everything being thrown out. So if there's been part of the resistance has been about the fear of the change, something's coming up because strength is there. So you're starting to see the strength that you have. I do think you're probably getting it from 2 sources actually. The first source is very positive. I think it's coming from leaders, managers, people who are decision makers in some way. There's a lot of really good feedback that's going to start coming to you. And it may be for some of you from somebody that you've worked with before. But I think, interestingly enough, it's also coming from the reaction of these type of people, this sort of person. You understand your own strength by how people are actually trying to rein you in and keep you in this unfulfilled churn sort of activity rather than moving to the level that you are. So I think that this is coming to you in a way to make you liberate yourself from feeling like you're just there for others and move into what you really can do, whether it is as a really high level specialist or whether it's as a leader. And you can be a thought leader. as a specialist. You don't have to be a manager, but you're going to understand your own strength with this once you sort through what it is that's making you resist the change, which I think is the influence of other people. So let's ask Spirit for a little bit more information, just a couple of cards around energy to help you move through this and make the choices that are right for you. Okay, so firstly we have peace, balance. Go within, get into this subconscious level, meditate if that helps for you, watch what's happening in your dreams, find a place where you can feel that you have the energy and the space to really contemplate this, because when you do, you'll see the path very clearly. You'll understand, is it exactly what your leaders are suggesting? Is it exactly what you thought you were going to do? What does growth mean for you? What does fixing this lack of unfulfillment mean to you? You will find that path if you go within. Do not listen to other people. Listen to yourself and go into that quiet space. So lastly, I want to use a pack called Secret Women's Business. It's not necessarily just about women. It's about business on a very pragmatic and prosaic level. So I think it's really great final advice around, in practical terms, what to think about and do to get this growth and fix whatever it is and make the decision that suits you and that gives you peace. Okay, so I think that Spirit's giving some advice about how to make this decision and how to sort of move to the next level. First one is saying create a system, systemize your business practices. So I think that's picking up that audit energy and the strategic planning. I think part of what will bring you to peace is really thinking about what's the foundation, the framework within which you would work, within which you would marry your very good sense of work culture also with outcomes and the strategy of what this new role is. In doing that, I feel like it provides to you a creative outlet that maybe this tension that I'm feeling that some of you may have between being a technical specialist and being a leader is it allows you to create something even in a leadership role. So create a system. That way you get to connect both those things. And then it's saying prioritize. So think about what is the greatest priority to you. So that's the other thing to contemplate here. What is it that you're really trying to achieve in the next step to get this growth for yourself personally and otherwise? And that then goes into your system. So I feel like it's saying there's a bridge between this specialist skill and ability you have and a leadership role, as I say, that's more like working on the business rather than in the business. There's a way to marry those two. But you need to liberate yourself from the demands of your current role. You need to get into your own self, into your own soul to work out what that path is, and then you create the plan around it and you create something within the business or the career that you have, which will realize the faith, I think, that the leaders and managers have in you, and which will be a cause for celebration for those colleagues who now potentially want to work in your team or potentially also elevate with you over time, and a way not to get caught by the decisions and structure and key performance indicators and measures of this other person. Create your own system, prioritize your energy. Don't get caught in the churn. So, pile 3, you are seen as having so much more potential, and this is by both your managers and most of your colleagues. In fact, even the colleague that's potentially trying to stop you knows your potential. So you are seen as someone who's potentially on the rise, someone who has so much to bring to the table, and somebody that people by and large very much care about, which is great. But you personally need to work out what your path is, because you are seen so highly by people. Everybody has an opinion about what you should do, and you're really getting caught back and it's bending over backwards for everybody else. So find your time to yourself. Determine what you really wanted to do right from the beginning in your career, and then find the path, and the rest I think will fall into place. So I hope that resonated for you, pile 3, and I hope it was helpful. If so, please like the video and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And if you do have any comments on this, I'd love to hear about what you're doing and how you're balancing those energies. That would be really interesting to hear about. I do have a feeling for many of you it's moving into your first sort of leadership role. That's a very interesting transitional time. And I will be doing some readings over time about that and about leadership and what those roles look like and giving spirits advice around that. So if that does resonate, keep an eye out for those in the future. Beyond that, I hope to see you in future readings.